Electricity is the light of God, and viruses are the words of God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1. In him God was life, and the life was the light of men. This was the true light, which gives light to every man coming into the world. These biblical truths are proven true by our knowledge of today's science and technology. Visible electricity is a bright white light. All living things have electrical signals and activity within them. Dead organisms have no electricity within them. Now, viruses are protein-coded packets containing genetic information. They are literally words describing protein building and genetic visible traits. All viruses contain specific information with a specific link to a specific living cell. This information is worded in segments of DNA and RNA in the language of all living gene codes. As an example of this, the famous coronavirus. The tips on the ball of the coronavirus are keys that fit in a keyhole on the outer cell wall of the cells in the human body. This virus, which is much smaller than the human respiratory cell, connects its little key into the tiny port on the cell. The cell wall opens up and receives the virus and the genetic information into the cell. The cell makes many copies of these DNA and/or RNA segments. The virus then goes viral. The infected cell breaks open and distributes these copies of gene codes to other cells to make more copies until all cells receive copies of these new updated strands of DNA and RNA. Believe it or not, your existing DNA and RNA has a specific place for this new information to splice into. This genetic information is added to the existing DNA and/or RNA permanently and will be passed on to the next generation. A computer analogy is this: your existing DNA is a computer program. A virus is specific information updating that program. Every cold and flu season adds updates to the existing program, enhancing it every season. These new words added to your existing word program changes and improves your genetic blueprint. You pass these new segments of viral DNA and RNA onto the next generation. This is the same as previous generations have passed their seasonal colds and flus and the words that were expressed in those genes to the next generation. This endless cycle of colds and flu has been going on for all recorded history and were very likely from the beginning of life on Earth. For all species on Earth have viruses created specifically for them. Special genetic information programmed purposefully to link with only specific cells. Every virus has a key to fit the keyhole of only the special cell it is intended to link to. With the genetic information it has chosen to receive. This process of viruses linking to their intended cells goes on all the time, every day, for the living organisms on our planet since the beginning of life on Earth. In the beginning was the Word. Almost all the time, this occurs with no ill effects to the organisms. Wild animals catch viruses most all the time with no ill effects. Then why do humans experience sick symptoms when they have colds and flus? Some do and some do not, as was proven with the coronavirus testing. Some people had it, some people had it and had no symptoms. In general, young and/or healthy people catch a cold or the flu with little or no symptoms. Others do have symptoms. Unlike wild animals, people have stressful lives. They smoke, drink, do legal and illegal drugs, lack exercise, and eat unhealthy diets. These lifestyle compromises worsen the ill effects of the virus. This gives people the false impression that viruses are only diseases. Rarely they are. The swine flu of 1919 was a hog virus with hog DNA and RNA that was able to link with human cells. This killed healthy people quickly. It was the wrong virus linked with the wrong animal cell. That was a disease. The life zones of the earth, land, and water are saturated with inconceivable, countless numbers of viruses. A teaspoon of coastal seawaters contains millions of viruses. Some are created to enhance the gene codes of crabs, snails, fish, seaweeds, corals, whales, plankton, etc. The air and soil are swarming with nearly infinite numbers of various viruses for mammals, birds, reptiles, insects, plants, bacteria, etc. They are the most abundant biological entity on Earth. Just like your cell phone signal that is everywhere connects to your number, viruses connect only to the specific organism and speaks words to their existing word history received from their ancestors. The influenza virus, common flu, is new every season with new words, RNA, gene codes for building new proteins. Catching the flu benefits and improves the human species and its future generations. Life on Earth would be impossible without viruses. It was clearly stated on the cover of National Geographic magazine, the February 2021 issue. Many virologists and geneticists already logically believe that the virus is the mechanism that causes biodiversity and evolution. Look on Wikipedia. Viruses cause small incremental changes in organisms over time. Evolution. Viruses clearly explain how one species changes into a similar related species and can also be traced back to a common ancestor. A clear example is the ancient small horse, the Eohippus, the ancestor of all modern horses. One group of these horses caught a series of seasonal viruses that eventually evolved them into Clydesdales. Another group of the same horses caught a different series of seasonal viruses and became Shetland ponies. Another group, Mustangs, etc. The ancient plants, simple ferns, mosses, and algae have been transformed into the beautiful flowering plants of today by getting a series of viruses, improving those plants over time, each seed cycle. Viruses and the diversity scripted genetic information contained in them, viruses and the divinely scripted genetic information contained in them are the essential words program segments that intelligently design all life on Earth. Each organism and all the cells in it receive new, updated information when their specific virus links with their specific cell. Like an email or a phone call, the words only connect and replicate to the email address or phone number they were chosen to be sent to. Electricity is the power that animates all life on Earth and much of modern technology. Electricity powers our computers that use the binary number system, 1 and 0, on and off, to program the images seen on a two-dimensional flat monitor screen. Electricity powers gene codes to create the images of a three-dimensional living organism. The light of God, animating the words of God, creates all the divine, complex, high-functioning, and beautiful life we witness here on Earth. Hi, I'm Michael Cassella, or Pillsbury, biologist with a Bachelor in Science from Tennessee Technological University. I'm the owner for 30 years of Age of Aquarium's live fish and plants in Cookeville, Tennessee, 620 South Jefferson Avenue, Suite 122, 38501. Any questions, see me in person at the above address 7 days a week or call 931-284-5658. Google search us and fact check me. Start with YouTube. What is a virus? And fact check this statement. The coronavirus is the common cold. It is caught from airborne countless viruses and is very rarely spread from one person to another. So you catch a cold from the viruses that are in the air. You catch the coronavirus from the viruses in the air, not from one another. Rarely it can happen, and there's not much evidence that it goes from one person to the next. But there is proof that it comes from the environment. Like all animals, all organisms catch the viruses directly from the environment and are not spread to one another. Now, bacteria and funguses do rub off on animals and spread to one another, but a virus is an airborne thing that's not alive or dead. It does not spread from one organism to another. Thank you. Fact check me.